Oh, this is our second podcast. We were supposed to have one last week, but due to technical difficulties, we postponed it for 1 week, and we're trying to work out the kinks. How we doing?
I think we're doing well. I love our new studio. It looks great in here. It's soundproof. It looks like we're in a professional setting.
Slowly coming together, and we're only 30 minutes late. Luckily, we're not live yet, but eventually we're going live. And we're going to also put hopefully some art or
some
decorations.
Yeah.
But this is the Best Treatment Practices. It's a nonprofit working on trying to make a website with the best treatment centers out there, IOP, what have you. Also, we are at the Beachcomber Studios.
Yes, we are. Yes,
Doesn't that sound big? Beachcomber Studios?
Sounds like we're a big deal.
On A1A, huh?
Yeah.
Yes.
On A1A and Delray Beach.
Yes. So. I don't know if there's another studio on A1A and Delray Beach on the beach here.
I'm not even sure where there might be one in Florida.
So anyway, we'll get the show started. I understand you had a guest at the Beachcomber. You want to explain?
Yeah, we had some chiropractors in yesterday to talk to us about taking care of your body and how to take care of stresses, how to start your day off right, drinking a lot of water in the morning, get your joints working properly, particularly as you get older, and the importance of good bone health. And of course, they're wanting to do chiropractic work, and I myself, I'm gonna try them out.
Yeah, I heard. Let me tell you something. You invite Inspire to your treatment center. 1, you get a bunch of good food.
Yes, and it was very good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
2, you get your back straightened out, right?
Yeah.
And for those who are tired of doing groups, you don't have to go in the group. You get to listen. How's that?
There you go, and learn stuff.
Learn. Yeah.
In the first 5 minutes of their presentation, I learned a lot about things that I personally am not doing that I should be doing in the morning to get my day started better. And they impressed upon us that how you start your day has a lot to do with how your day goes. And that I believe that to be true. I meditate in the morning, so I do that to help me get the day started right. But I don't do anything for my bone density, my bone health, or anything like that. And I'm going to start doing these things.
And I got to thank him for getting my day started today. I got a sandwich out of
it. Yeah, anybody that brings good food for a presentation is a leg up.
And we had some sandwiches left over, so my day got started right. Not according to my wife, but no one's going to tell her. And so also I was at a board meeting. I was telling you about it. I've done a lot of these meetings, and I've done JACO numerous times, but this is for our college. And let me tell you, they're a little more investigative. They ask a lot more questions, and they don't like answers that are not answers.
Sure.
Found out.
Sure. Well, and the schools are regulated to such a degree that they regulate you if you're going to be involved with them. Yeah. And I remember when I got my PhD, just to get my subject matter approved took like 9 months, and I had to go through presentation after presentation. And when schools put their name on stuff, they want to make sure that it follows certain protocols.
Yeah, but most people on board meetings, they have a secretary who kind of tells them what they're going to do, and you're not supposed to remember all the minute details, but I'm going to have to brush up the next time I go in front of them.
Well, and I think a lot of times that's why consultants exist, right? To help people through that.
Right. I think we should have been more prepared, and we're not going to blame that on anyone in particular, but I can even say the head of the board, or board president, he knew how to spin some words, but they weren't accepting it. Let me tell you, they kept saying, "Give us an example, an actual example."
Well, I wonder if he's been before them before.
No.
Okay.
If he had and he did that, then he would be in trouble. But anyway, I'm laughing. I was just, it was an experience.
Sure.
The food was good again.
That's always important.
That's always important, yes. Was that the place you ever been to? The Woods up in Jupiter?
No.
Never been there. This huge restaurant right on the water near Coastal. Nice place up in Jupiter. So anyway, what was best treatment practices? Finally, we got a checkbook. We're real.
Terrific.
Yes, and what did you had to help me out with something with that one? What was it? You were helping me with.
Well, incorporating first.
Oh,
and
right.
And we're still working on it being designated as not for profit.
Right.
That's not
we're
been
waiting for that
finalized.
letter. Yeah. And I'm hoping to talk to Blue Cross, and that's what I was hoping you.
Right.
Tony does a lot of this writing. He's a great writer, and he's going to help me. That
Presentation.
presentation goes to Blue Cross to see if
Right.
we get them to accept
Sure.
best treatment practices.
Sure.
If we get them to accept it, who knows?
Right. And we got other things going on too. The Beachcomber is being renovated.
No, that's a lot of work out there, hammering nails, noise.
You know what? The workers have done a great job of not being a hindrance to the patients,
Yes,
not
indeed.
being a hindrance to groups going on.
Mhm.
And we're getting all the cabins being remodeled, some roofs being reinstalled. The facility itself has always been very serene and very beautiful, but now it's getting a great facelift with trees, in some cases being taken out where they had become overgrown, and other places just being trimmed back. It's just
Don't forget the gym. They got the
Yeah.
fake grass out there.
Oh,
That was
boy.
nice.
when I first came to the Beachcomber 20 years ago, we didn't have any gym.
No.
And then somebody put out a few weights, and there was a quasi gym, but it was on poor ground. It was on
Yeah.
sandy dirt, and it was rolling, and it was almost dangerous. And so what happened was they took everything out and came in with equipment, flattened it, and put down artificial grass. And the artificial grass that exists in today's world is
Wow.
spectacular.
It's a lot of work putting that grass down.
It is.
It's not cheap. I would like my whole yard that way, though.
Well, I have a friend whose yard is that way.
Yeah.
And when I first saw it, I said, "How do you keep your grass like this?" he said, "It's not real."
That's how you keep it.
But one of the beautiful things about the exercise area is that we put up a sail to cover it because it gets very hot out there. Here we're in August in South Florida. 3:00 in the afternoon, it's incredibly humid out there. And now with the shade, at least it's a little bit better.
But you do remember at one time we had a nice little gazebo out there,
Yeah.
and a neighbor called and said it was too close to the power lines, and so the building zoning person came out there and said, "Get rid of it." And I said, "Really?" And then what we did? We got rid of all of it, which we didn't have to do. We should have kept the posts, which were the exercise things. No, they cut them all down to the ground. All they wanted to do is get rid of the roof.
Right.
But not all anyway. So that was lesson learned. Don't build too close to power lines, and probably get a permit before you do it.
Well, that creates a lot of problems. People not getting permits. Right?
Yes, it does. Although it was only a gazebo. What was something else we were talking about? Oh yeah, that we're going to get a network of Blue Cross Beachcomber.
Right.
We're all set. Finally, after years of trying, Florida Power and Light wanted us in, and we've IOP could really do a lot of work with the Florida Blue Cross. So there's a possibility we're going to sign.
And Florida Power and Light is somebody that we've dealt with for many, many years, right?
Well, they in fact were requested it to Blue Cross and told them, my understanding, it was supposed to be a secret. You better get them on, or we're going somewhere else.
Yeah.
So
there was
thank you, FPL.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a period for I want to say 10 or 12 years when it was rare that we didn't have at least one client from FPL here.
Mm-hmm. I found out, I was at the board meeting, the director of human resources for Rocketdyne is on the board. I didn't realize that. So, Rocketdyne. And my son, going a little bit here, is hoping to get a job maybe with Rocketdyne. Well,
Got an in.
I got an in. We'll see. She may not like me, though. I don't know after that board meeting. I did eat her dessert when she wasn't looking. No, I'm joking. Anyway, so what else is going on?
Well, as we're talking, I'm thinking to myself, at the beginning of this, we never introduced ourselves.
True. Sometimes we both just assume everybody knows about
Yeah,
it.
we're such mega
celebrities,
Yeah, mega stars.
At least in our own lives. You go first.
I'm Tony Foster. I'm the program director at the Beachcomber, and on the board of Best Treatment Practices. And I've been associated with the Beachcomber almost 20 years. Actually got sober here beginning October 16th of 2022. And for most of the period from then to now, I've been in some capacity at the Beachcomber, from being an intern to a therapist, to opening up the IOP in Boynton Beach, and opening up the IOP in PHP in Fort Lauderdale, and then coming back to residential, sort of the flagship place, and being the program director here. And my wife is the clinical director here and the family program director. So, we're together all day and all night, and somehow we've made it work. We've been doing that for a long time. So that's me.
I'm glad you kept it short because he could have gone a lot more. Let me tell you, he's got a long resume there. And very impressive.
And what's not real, I just make up. Just kidding.
Well, the thing we do have in common, of course, my wife works here, and I do, and my son. So this is could be, times it can be a little stressful, but other times I run away and let them run, so I don't have to get into any of the squabbles. No, everything, we all get along. But it is funny. We do have a lot of family involved in the Beachcomber. I've been at the Beachcomber since 1980. Oh, by the way, I'm Joe Bryan. I've been on boards, I have two nonprofits, FATC, which a lot of people are aware of, Florida Addiction Treatment Coalition. I want to tell you why I started that one. I went to the mayor of Delray. I think I told you about that during the opiate crisis that we had. And I was trying to get his support and trying to see what we could do about all the people who were dying in Delray. And I think there was something like, 2,600 per week and going up. And I was trying to find ways that we could help, like Narcan into cop cars. There's things we could have done. But his answer was a little bit eye-opening. He wasn't any interested. In fact, his only interest was, I'd prefer if they just die somewhere else. And so...
Yeah. Well, and he was aggressively negative about the industry. He went on national TV and said, told families that don't send your kids to Florida for treatment. We'll send them home in a body bag. And that was just not appropriate. And obviously he's not in office anymore.
And you have to consider one of the reasons our death rate was so high is our number of treatment centers, the number of recovering people here. And, of course, we were the number one sellers of OxyContin at the time. Mm-hmm. Now, right now, I think we're down to, I don't know, in the 40s. Under the three states became Ohio, Maryland.
West Virginia, I think.
Kentucky.
Kentucky.
Yeah. That OxyContin became the move. But we did get rid of, just like we did Flocka.
Right.
We got rid of Flocka as a major issue. I don't know if anyone's aware of this little tidbit. I think Quaaludes is the only substance that I know of that they eradicated and quit making completely. Now, I don't know if it restarted, but Quaaludes back in the 70s, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They actually got rid of it. It was I guess it was not a medical use drug.
Right. And there was no medical need or use for it. Right. It was just used for altering your mind.
Right. And so Flocka was a friend of mine, Don Maines, and people in Fort Lauderdale had a major part in getting China to stop it, which it has. It'll probably come back, but they did stop it. That was a horrible drug.
I think the BSO sheriff flew to China.
Oh, yeah. A team of them did.
Yeah.
That's why I said Broward County was the team that instrumental in stopping Flocka. They did the same with fentanyl, but China found a better way. They supplied the Mexican cartel with the fentanyl instead of selling it directly to the United States.
Well, and, that brings up a bit of a controversial point. Palm Beach County, the sheriff's office there doesn't want Narcan in their cars. and that just makes no sense to me. And I'd love to hear, the reasoning for that, but it just doesn't make any sense.
I know he's getting a lot of pressure from the public. They've had enough. They've been trying to get people to go to the commission meetings and trying to push the issue. They finally did it in Broward, but I heard the rumor they did in Broward. What happened was two of the dogs stepped on some fentanyl and died. And so after that, they went ahead and got the Narcan. Because you can save dogs with Narcan.
Sure.
And it's been done.
Sure. And also we had that situation in Broward about 6 months ago where there were 5 overdoses and the police came and the fentanyl was so strong the police touched it and they overdosed from just touching the powdered substance. And
but they had the Narcan in their cars.
They had Narcan in their cars, yes.
Right. And so the sheriffs in Broward finally got the hint and did it. It's not that expensive. I think even their Narcan, I think they were giving it to certain groups at a pretty discounted rate, if not free. Yeah. Right. So we hope to see Palm Beach County jump on board with the rest of the. I don't get it though. They say their cops or the police are not medical people, but what they like to see, when they arrive to a situation, if they had the Narcan, they could do something about it. Otherwise, they call 911 and wait for the kid to die or whoever.
And think about that. They're not medical people, so they can't do it. Yet they can Baker Act people. So in a sense, they're acting as mental health people. And I think that's appropriate because if somebody's in crisis and they need to be Baker Acted, they should be able to do it. Just like if you're overdosing, you should be able to apply Narcan.
I don't know the reason. I guess I haven't. Have you heard what the reasoning
No,
was?
I haven't.
I haven't heard money being the reasoning. That might be it. They like to put their budgets in tanks and stuff like that.
I'm sure that if they wanted to raise the money for this, as much as that issue has been a problem in South Florida, it could be raised without the county paying for it. In some way, whether it's donations from wealthy people, we've had wealthy people make large donations to start treatment centers before, with no interest in a return or a profit. I'm sure that this issue touches many family lives, and even those that you may not think it does. And those people have the wherewithal to make small and large donations that would help to pay for this. If some sort of a drive was started to do that, I'm sure they would raise plenty of money.
No, they've had drives, and I know they've been requesting people to show up at commission meetings. Mm-hmm. In fact, next month they're having a fentanyl roundtable in Broward County on the 24th. I'm hoping to go to that, but that's in Broward County.
Sure.
Yeah, but anyway, on a lighter note, Halloween's coming around in a little bit. I ordered my costume already last night.
What is it?
Well, I want to surprise you. So I was wondering if you're preparing yourself for Halloween, or are you going to be in town on Halloween?
I'm actually going to be in between my trips to Paris, so I'm actually going to be in town. But I'm probably going to be preparing to move.
Yeah, Tony is going to Paris, and all points there. And we will then try to do our. Hopefully by then we're live.
Right.
Live podcast in separate countries.
That's it. I'm kind of semi-retiring on the 20th anniversary of my sobriety, and moving to Paris with my wife. And hope to be doing this internationally, and maybe we can add a different flavor, and maybe bring some French ideas into the mix.
Well, our strategy is that by then we will have 5 different countries watching us at least. And it's going to be this place is too small for 2 big celebrities like us.
That's right.
That's right. One has to go expand to another country.
There you go. I have the feeling that you're booting me out because it's not big enough for both of us.
Well, I need to take all the air of this room. There's not a big room, so there's not with him in here, me in here. We're running out of air,
Yeah.
So I'm going to send him to Paris, and See if we can expand there. Maybe get some of the English involved.
Sure.
Can you do an English accent?
I can. I lived in England
Let's
for a year and a half.
see it.
No.
Well, how about soccer? Say some. We'll play a bit of soccer.
Well, actually, they don't use the word soccer. They use football. So,
Tells you how much I know.
yeah, they think of us as Neanderthals because we use the word soccer. But football was invented in England, or soccer, and so they take great pride in the proper verbiage and but amazingly, England has never or rarely been the best soccer place in the world, even though it was invented there.
Hasn't dampened their spirits any though.
No, that's true. That's true. So, what else we got?
Well, let me see. We talked about the best treatment practices. Some of the things we really haven't really gone into detail. I think, did we go into detail last time? What we really want to do is to make a Zagat list of treatment centers where family can call in, and they will be evaluated by our system, which we think is foolproof, as best as it can be.
Mm-hmm.
As best as it can be. Nothing is foolproof, so we can't expect that. But the evaluation and the cost of everything is very inexpensive because it's all done, each individual patient at individual treatment centers would fill out a questionnaire. It would go to a evaluation box and then scored, and then would be sent. Just like in we have EMR systems. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that. EMR stands for
electronic medical records.
And everybody has to have that. So it's a portal. So we would send all the questions through that portal to a separate computer, or however you want to put it. It would be tabulated. And each month you could change those tabulations. So it's going to be changing every month. Instead of 1 year evaluation, these treatment centers would be evaluated monthly.
Right. And so, that's done because treatment centers sometimes change hands and philosophies change,
Right.
and both positively and negatively.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, treatment centers open up new and they go gangbusters and they do very well and they financially do well, so they continue to do gangbusters. Mm-hmm. And then they start to hit a wall where it's not quite so easy. Right. And that's when trouble starts. And so this will be able to monitor that kind of behavior and see the path that a particular treatment center is going on. And so that a family member, when they're evaluating where to send their loved one to treatment, will be able to see a standardized method of rating the facility.
And we're hoping, because you're not really trying to get people, we're hoping to get treatment centers up their game to meet the level. Like if you wanted to get in the Zagat,
sure,
you had to up your level to make that food to quality to get in there. That is our desire, not to close places, not to blackball places, but get them to up their game. And they can do that once they know what they have to do it. Because the scoring will say, let's say, for example, someone's in their rooms were messy all the time.
Right.
Something simple like that. Well, they would get flagged for that, and then they have the opportunity. Maybe they are not. Maybe they've letting some go. Maybe the cleaning person isn't being watched. So it will be flagged for them, and that's something they can fix easy. It could be, anything from the food was horrible, so they would up their game. Then they could go into therapy as well. We would talk about therapists.
Sure.
The biggest thing is, are their website matching with what they have in the treatment center? And that's going to be a big one.
Right. And it could be philosophically a change. As an example, mm-hmm. when we went to start doing rapid resolution therapy mm-hmm. about 12 or 13 years ago, mm-hmm. That was a big change in how we approach treatment, in mm-hmm. that there's such a high percentage of people who suffer with alcoholism or other forms of addiction. There's such a high percentage of sexual abuse in that. Mm-hmm. Rapid resolution therapy is a method of taking care of PTSD associated with anything, but it was initially towards sexual abuse. And that completely changed many treatment centers' view of how they treat people. It added such a big thing, allowing a patient to go through that kind of therapy, usually approximately 10 to 15 days into their treatment, so that wasn't something that their mind was dwelling on all the time while they were trying to learn how to stay sober. And so, adding a piece like that to your treatment facility would be reflected in how you're rated, I'm sure. So, that's kind of, I think, a pretty good example.
Say, in my history, well, there's two major changes that I have seen. And then that is what. The other one was the one where, what do you call? They used to call daytop, where there's where they make them wear signs what is that called? It's abusive, but anyway, addicts already have a low self-esteem.
Sure,
making them do all these things isn't helping someone with a low self-esteem.
Right.
So that was long ago. That's back in the 70s. They stopped that, and only a few places were doing that. But the biggest change was rapid resolution, and I went to everywhere telling people about it. And I will take credit a little bit, but I spread rapid resolution. I know a lot of people learned it from me, and we had it at our conference a couple of times.
Sure.
It is the best and fastest method of dealing with some trauma, so you can start dealing with other issues.
And those of you that aren't aware of what it is basically it's during a session, a client would discuss what the event was or events, and the therapist would take them through approximately 20 minutes of hypnosis / meditation that would help them to clear the negative feelings associated with that. It doesn't erase it. It can't erase it. It happened. It's in your memory, but it can alter your feelings about it.
The triggers, yeah.
Yeah.
And I've seen it work because you can talk to the people afterwards.
Yes.
And the way it's very easy to tell if someone is still affected by their trauma is when you talk to them, do their posture change, do their voice modulate change, do they, you can tell them react differently. And they don't. And when they come out, a lot of times they can tell the story of what happened and you don't see any physical or change. It's like a story to them now.
And that's it. And, it also changes their result. I mean, we're talking about symptoms, right? The symptoms afterwards. But what really is the most important is, does it change the result? I remember about 2.5 years ago, we had a fireman here who had witnessed a horrific death, and very unique death, not what you normally would think a fireman would see. And it haunted him to the point that he would go to work and sit in the parking lot for 4 or 5 hours, not be able to walk in the building. Mm-hmm. And this really fueled his alcoholism. And he couldn't stop drinking, and he couldn't stop drinking, and he couldn't stop drinking. And that's how he coped. Well, he came to the Beachcomber. We did rapid resolution with him. He's now sober 2.5 years and has no trouble going into work. That sounds a bit like a wonder drug. It's not a wonder drug. It takes real work. It takes real preparation. It takes good timing, doing it at the right time in someone's treatment. And I think it takes a relationship between the therapist and the client where the client really fully trusts the therapist, because it is deep meditation / hypnosis. I hate to fully use the word hypnosis because that connotates things.
I thought they also remembered Sandra said it was linguistics, or didn't she say that was similar to that? What was that called?
Neurolinguistics.
Neurolinguistics. Some people compare it to that too.
Yeah, right? I for me, it's training your mind to take, one negative thought and move it to a positive thought. And,
Are you familiar with neurolinguistics?
Not a lot.
Not me. I was just wondering, but I've heard. We need to get a clock up there because maybe our producer can tell us where. There he is.
30 minutes.
That's 30 minutes. Man, we went over so many topics in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
My gosh.
I have a feeling that we could just keep talking.
I know we had one of our first cases was an individual held in a boat. Remember? Mm-hmm. She thought she was getting a job on a boat or yacht, and it wasn't. And I remember talking to her, and before and after was just amazing difference. And so that's why I said, what are some of the other big changes in our field? Like quitting wearing the signs was a big one, and for me, rapid. I would not really do trauma here before because there was so trauma work. It was so hard because of the reaction from the trauma patient. Sometimes it was hard to manage in this setting. You have to, we would have the crisis, like the psychiatric crisis or sexual or AMA or what have you. And so prefer not, and if you did any trauma work, you better do it in the morning because that gives you time to manage it through the day. But gosh, with rapid resolution, you don't have to worry what time you're doing it. But is there anything else that you can think of that is, I don't think anything that big since we're around, but there must be some.
Well, I mean, it's affected the treatment centers a lot is the approach that insurance companies have taken towards treatment over the last 7 or 8 years. That has really made it much more difficult to operate. I think there's that. I think. Oh,
remember when that reminds me. Insurance companies also were the ones that 1990 just probably got rid of 70% of all the treatment centers. Just gone. The insurance companies stopped paying, and they were only given 3 days, and you were done.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was not. I guess you could say that wasn't a positive effect. That'd be on the negative side.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think the other biggest, in my father's term, was the biggest thing that ever happened when they went from psychiatry for treatment of addiction, which was shock treatment and who knows what a major thing, to counseling. And I remember this day, my father talked to me. He was at Eagleville. They had a psychiatric department and an addiction department. And if you were an alcoholic, the secretary would decide which side you went. And so happened was my future mother, stepmother, who was the gatekeeper of which way you go. Can you imagine being in that position? Because some of them had to go there.
Sure.
And my father's side fought with the psychiatry side because they were wrong. They were treating alcoholism with pills. They were treating with shock treatment. So they didn't get along. So can you imagine, you get sent to the wrong side, and how do you get over to the right side, That must have been a tough time.
I bet it was.
Yeah.
I bet it was, yeah.
That was I told Tony this. I used to, because of my father's experience there, I used to try to get psychiatrists coming after 3:00 when my father was gone. They did finally change, psychiatrists did, but they still had some residual that he would get into arguments with.
And when Joe talks about his father was the founder of the Beachcomber in 1976, Jim Bryan. And he was very instrumental in many positive things happening in South Florida, whether it was treatment. He was part of a group that started
the certification board. That was him. Yeah.
Right. Also was heavily involved with the EAP of Florida.
That's correct.
And I know that there's a men's AA meeting in Boca Raton
by the men's group. Yeah.
The men's group at St. Gregory's Church that he was heavily involved in, and I think if you ask serious men in recovery what the best men's group around is, many of them will say it's that one. And we're talking how many years ago? 40 plus years ago he started that meeting. Yeah,
they had some bunch of old timers going to that one, didn't they?
I remember.
My father would not miss that meeting. That was that's what you're supposed to do. One of the things you try to get, you hopefully get your meetings to, that you look forward to them, and it is a place where you're with comrades and people but also friends, and friends discuss personal things with each other, and they were his friends too.
Sure. I remember the first time I was asked to speak at that meeting. I was only sober about a year and a half, and I walked in. There was about 120 people, and I had a year and a half, and there was probably 30 people in there with more than 30 years experience. And I was scared to death. But I got through it, and, now I speak there every couple of years, and I enjoy it. But anyway.
I know a friend of mine told me, he went to my father and said, what is the key to staying sober? You got it. He goes, my dad did a lot of years. My dad said, maybe go to meetings.
Yeah.
And a year later, he came up and said, I've been going a long time. I still haven't found, what is the key to staying sober? The father said, that's a tough one. Go to meetings. And I have to say now, he said, after another year, I figured out the key to staying sober is going to meetings. It wasn't anything that you had to have 100 years with, Just had to, not be so. Some people look for the secret, individual thing that works, and going to meetings.
Yep.
As simple as that, As the other option is, as we discussed before, toothbrush therapy. Things that you do. There's many different methods, but going to meetings is a big one.
I'll tell you what, when I learned toothbrush therapy, I glommed on to that.
Yeah.
And, if there's one thing you learn in treatment, if you learn toothbrush therapy, you've got a leg up on everything else. Because from as far as daily sober disciplines, it's the best thing out there.
I was talking about that to somebody 2 days ago. Yeah. Of course, I couldn't remember toothbrush therapy. It took me about 15 minutes. I said, toothbrush therapy. But a lot of people out there that I do know mention it, that they still do that.
Sure.
Yeah, I've talked to them over the years. We had a woman drop by, went through here 35 years ago. She didn't do toothbrush. She said it was before that we really got into it. But, it's always nice talking to someone that comes back. It's been a long time ago.
Well, I feel like I resurrected my life after I came here as a patient and changed careers and all that, and I think I did pretty well. But my biggest accomplishment in 20 years is that I've done a gratitude list every single night for 20 years. Literally every night. And I've traveled where I've forgotten my journal to do my gratitude list. And, just like every hotel, there's a notepad and a Bible in the drawer right there. I get a notepad out, do my gratitude list, and staple it into the page in the appropriate place in my journal. And because that's how I stayed sober. And Trey Cryer taught me that if I do these 5 things every day, I'm never going to drink or use drugs again.
Yeah, you do. We all need that because you have to check that ego. Because
right.
Tony got a letter from a family. It was just heartfelt and all these nice things, and you get enough of those letters, it can sometimes take you somewhere you don't want to be because it's easy to do that for many of us. But we have to stay grounded and remember that we're fortunate.
Yeah,
in that.
And mentioning ego, if we were to have to put the problem of addiction in one word for an individual person, it always comes back to ego. Mm-hmm. When they relapse, I didn't need those meetings. I didn't need my sponsor. I didn't need to follow direction. It's all based in ego. Mm-hmm. And, I have to check my ego all the time, even today. So it's not something that ever fully goes away. And that's why toothbrush therapy is so important, because it keeps it at bay if you're doing it properly.
I can tell you after that board meeting I did the other day, my ego was checked. They asked me some questions I did not know. And as I told you, they kept asking the president of the board, give me a specific example. So I couldn't do the usual Joe Baloney Bull because they were not accepting that stuff.
So you were humming.
Yeah, you had to have examples, and so if you try to do that, we're the best school because boom, it ain't working. Luckily, the president was the one not catching on. But fortunately, we're a small podcast now, and it probably will not be seen by my cohorts in my board, but. Sure. I'm glad I wasn't him that meeting. I don't even know if he noticed it, though, frankly. I wonder if he did, because he didn't seem to.
Sure.
Yeah. Have you ever had that happen where you've been in and someone has asked for...
Oh, yeah.
And not you, but someone else, and they kept not giving the right...
Right, and you want to jump in and help, right?
Yeah, yes, and I wanted to help, but I was worried that if I helped, they would, they wanted to know what was our 5-year strategy. And I had one, but I didn't know if it was actually written in there, so... I sort of mumbled it, I think, eventually.
All right. Yeah. Well, I think we've talked for a long time for today. I think we've probably gone 40 minutes or so. And I think maybe it's time to wrap it up.
Well, it's the most I've ever talked about. Now, Tony, Tony does it every day in group now. Hey, I said this. It's Joe Bryan. I hope you can catch us on our podcast soon to go live. We need a little practice.
Sure.
At least I do.
I certainly do.
Yeah. Anyway, we're done.
We'll see you next week.